Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast. We're talking with my good friend Josh in Victorville, California, and we're talking about creating effective and powerful staff retreats, which is a unique topic, but we all have retreats with our staff. We should, and how to make them effective and how to make them a powerful time together. So we're going to be talking about that. Before we jump into it, I want to remind you to check out all things Church Boom at churchboom.org. Coaching certification, Church Boom University, just lots of stuff that just helps you and your team to grow in your personal leadership. But hey, let's jump into the conversation now with my good friend Josh. Let's jump into it, man. How can I serve you today, Josh?
Yeah, so one thing I was thinking about with multiple staff, and we have an upcoming staff retreat in November that we're excited about. We do one, on an annual basis, and it'll be 33 of us at the retreat. And I'm just curious what your thoughts on best practices for staff retreat. What are you trying to accomplish at the staff retreat? We'll have about 5-6 sessions together over about 3 or 4 days, and just wanted to see what you think. Man, this is stuff I want to see come about, the things I'm looking for. I want to encourage the staff, let them know how much we care, but also accomplish, again, some great things through the staff retreat. So just curious how you've done that in the past. With
Yeah, absolutely. Staff. Yeah. So I do think that I think it's always great. I'm telling you probably something you already know, but I think it's always great to have the end in mind. Especially with a retreat. I was just helping a guy a couple of weeks ago. Where's he at? In New York, and they're doing a staff retreat, big church, all that stuff. And we talked about, okay, well, what's the end game? What are you trying to do? Because in the typical retreat, we're going to talk about hangout. We're going to talk about have fun. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about, some devotionals and all that. But I do think, in most cases, it's a missed opportunity to say, what's the big rock? Like, what are we walking away with? And I think to first identify that. So it could range from, man, we need to get incredibly clear on our mission and our vision. It feels like it's wonky. It feels like sometimes it might float over to, man, the team alignment is not there the way that I would like it to be. And so what do we do there? What can we talk about there? I think it's always good first to find out what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Again, mission, vision, strategy, team alignment, whatever it may be, learning to handle conflict in the team, whatever it may be. I think it's great to have that end game in mind. The other thing I think is great is because you have a lot of breathing room at a retreat versus at a staff meeting. I think it's always great to do some form of exercises that sort of help foster the conversation. So instead of the pastor presenting some message, he's able to, I'm not saying that he doesn't do that, but he's able to intertwine, let's talk a little bit about, let's do an exercise. Let's do something that would help. So some of the exercises, traditional ones are SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I think another great one is bright spots and weaknesses. That's a version of it, but kind of a smaller version of it. Bright spots and weaknesses is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a way of saying strengths and weaknesses, but you call them bright spots, weaknesses. I think those are great. I think personality tests are a blast at staff retreat. I think figuring out who we are and how we interact with people, I think is always a great thing to do. Those are always awesome. I think evaluating where the church is at and where we're wanting to go, I think is always great. You and I, when I was with you guys a handful of months back, we did the 6 phases of a church, which we talk about in the book, When Your Church Feels Stuck, kind of that kind of thing, but figuring out where are we at and where do we want to go? And then how are we going to actually get there is such an important part. So those are some of the things that I think are important to part of it. I think it gives you an opportunity to breathe a little bit, but again, with the end game in mind. So let me fire back at you. Where do you feel the staff is? Like, where do you feel like, man, if we could accomplish this at the end of the 3 days, that would be amazing.
We've had some, transitions in the last few months. And so part of that is kind of bringing the staff together, I think, in a new vision and new light. And I think the evaluation of where we are, where we're going is very good. We're going to look at, I think at this point, doing the 6 working geniuses with
Yeah,
Patrick Lencioni. So we're kind of
that's
looking at that,
awesome.
read that book this last year, thought, that'd be good for our team. Just that whole concept of how we work together. And
Yeah,
in our context, we have our Victorville campus pastors, and then we have our campus pastors, and they're almost 2 different teams in a way. So we'll be kind of navigating through some of that for
right.
the different churches. But yeah, very much looking forward just that team dynamic coming together. And I like the sense of having purposeful exercises. That's going to be great. It's kind of unique for us. We're trying something new this year. We're actually going to do a cruise out of Long Beach for a few days for our retreat.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. I
So
love it.
we're giving it a shot. It's actually cheaper for us to do that than it is to go to a hotel. So
That's awesome.
it's going to be kind of interesting to do that. I'm excited about that for the team.
Yeah, I love that. You're going on a cruise. I'm looking in my emails. You didn't invite me, so I don't know what's going on here. I would have
You
been a
can
guest
come. I can
speaker
get you
for
on.
free.
That's right. That's right. You can be our main speaker. That'd be great.
Oh man, that's so awesome. That's a great idea. I love it. I love what you guys are doing there. I think that's great. And since you talked about transition, I remember one time Verizon. I've spoken for Verizon a number of times, and they were going through a monster transition where someone bought out Verizon, even though they renamed it
Oh,
or
sure.
named it Verizon, but they bought it out, whatever. And so it created a ton of transition. So they had me come out to Florida or something, and I thought it was real interesting because they wanted me to talk to the group, and it was a big group, 1,000 people, but they wanted me to talk to them about transition.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something for you to keep in mind, Josh. Is like, okay, what is the normal reaction when there's transition? How do we react? I mean, we all put a smile on our face because we're all believers and Christians, but
Sure.
it's just something to keep in mind. I wouldn't say you create a whole message out of it or anything,
Yeah.
but I think people get some people get disengaged.
Uh-huh.
Some people get disenchanted. There's always this sort of some people create distance, but there's always a response to transition. Some are easy and fine, and some quietly respond a certain way. So if that's going to be part of it, man, I think it would be awesome for you to have a kind of a 20-minute thought of how do we normally, what are the categories in which we respond to
Sure.
transition, and then what is the healthy way to respond to transition.
No, that's good. That's good. I will do that.
And
Thank you for that.
and also in transition, sometimes there's transition with a staff member, and so it's like, okay, I don't know this staff member, or they quietly question, why does all these transitionings happen? And I'm not saying people are doing that, but there's a thing also of trust versus suspicion, and to err on the side of trust versus err on the side of suspicion. The proper way to respond is, let's err on the side of trust. Even though we don't have all questions answered, let's err on the side of trust rather than erring on the side of suspicion. There are some people, by their personality, they err on the side of suspicion. So that poor person, or you in that case, has to climb up their hill they made of trust versus why don't we just start with trust
That's
and
good.
go from there?
Yeah.
So it's trust versus suspicion. It's a kind of a cool little thought process as well.
Yeah, it's something we talked about recently about let's give each other the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
Instead
same
of
thing.
jumping to the negative side, and which we tend to do, I think, especially in our culture today. I think we so much lack trust in leadership, politics, all that has changed our trust of people.
Right.
And
Right.
let's try to give each other the benefit of the doubt. And most time that's the case, right? We're all
Yeah.
trying to reach people for Jesus, and we're good people, and so it's been something that's good to talk about. I'll put that down. I wrote that down.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that might help. So who knows?
That's good.
Yeah. What else you got?
So other thing it was kind of part of the staff retreat idea is I know you've led some great churches or a great church and doing different things with your teams. What have you done to create and foster like events, like a day? Like we have a fun day coming up. I just put on the calendar, pastoral staff fun day.
Mhm.
What are some things that you've done to make that happen? Especially, we're here in both of us in Southern California. Like events that you've done, like we did an escape room one time, things like that. I'm just
Right.
thinking of ideas to go, hey, we can take our staff to do this. And really the whole goal of the day would be to build relationships with one another, hear our histories, those kind of things. So I just love to hear some maybe things
Yep.
you've done in the past to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome that you're doing that. I don't know if pastors do that enough. I think that we get so busy that we don't realize that everything moves at the speed of relationships. And if we are not creating relationships and bond, then that's going to be a problem. So everything moves at the speed of relationships. I'll tell you, there's escape rooms and different things definitely that we've done. The one comes to mind, and it was what I love is, and I'm going to share with you what it was, is the surprise element. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I'll just give you one for sake of time, but I think it's cool, a surprise element. So we said, hey, we're going to do a staff day a few years back. So, all right. So we cleared the day and we went to Pasadena, and we ate at this really cool restaurant on top of a hill or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then we stopped by the Rose Bowl, and I'm like, hey, we're going to get a tour of the Rose Bowl. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. We got to go through the locker rooms and all that. What they didn't know at the very, very end is we got to go down on the field, and you're looking at 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And a guy comes walking out with a football and flag equipment and said, you guys have the field for an hour. And we played flag football on Rose Bowl field for an hour.
That's pretty good, man.
Oh, everybody still talks about it. But it was also, they just thought we were going to do the lot. They didn't even know that. They just thought we were going to lunch. Sure. Then there was a second surprise, like, whoa, we're going to get a tour of the Rose Bowl. Then they got on the field. That was the third surprise. And then when we played an hour-long game, flag football on the Rose Bowl field with 100,000 seats.
Sure.
Who gets to do that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wow.
So surprise elements of like, well, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And if you can figure out how to surprise them, that's always a fun thing. Something they just weren't expecting,
Did you do those like once a year or quarterly? Or how did you handle that with your team?
1 to 2 times a year.
Okay.
Kind of a bigger one once, a smaller one another time of the year. But we just, on the church boom side of my life, not the South Hill side of my life, we just did something 2-3 months ago. Now all the team is spread out throughout the United States. So we all met in Florida. We hung out for 2 days. Then we do it's kind of a fun element and kind of surprise them. But if you can figure out ways to surprise them, that just, it'll blow people away, and it didn't cost us anything. We just knew someone that knew somebody.
Yeah, I'm sure you got the contact.
But still, it's like, well, that worked, and man, if you're able to do that, that's a pretty amazing thing.
That's cool. Did you take like when you're at South Hill specifically? Did you do things with beyond the pastors? So like maybe you would do something with the office staff or other additional staff. Just curious how you handle some of that.
Yes, we did. I believe, and what I recommend is, especially in multi-site, do something with the campus pastors for sure. Do that at least once a year. Campus pastors, kind of main department head staff, but definitely once a year, it's all staff, everybody. Okay. And it's like, pull up 2 buses and the whole thing, but it's a blast. Now, and that may not be a Rose Bowl kind of a thing, but it might be hey, I just want everybody to, clear out from 10 to 3, take them to lunch, rented out a movie theater one time for the release of, I don't remember what it was, one of the Marvel things or something, but release of something, I don't remember, but it was cool. Like it was, and I said, go to the snack bar, get whatever you want, go into the theater. And we're the only ones in there.
Yeah.
And that was we're the only ones in here. This is so cool. Rented out the whole thing. Rented out the whole theater. And it wasn't hard to rent out at 1 PM. They're usually getting 15 people to buy tickets. We're coming in going, here's X amount of people. And they love it. And they just closed off that theater. So it worked out really, really well. But yeah, all staff is definitely a great way of doing that.
No, that'd be fun. I'll do that movie theater. That's a great idea because that's something that's very doable in house or not house, but locally. And so, we have a lot of staff. So I'm thinking, man, we got to take 100 people with us, so it'd be fun to do.
Oh, you know what else we did is we did this was pretty cool. We did back in the day when we were in youth group, but most of these people don't know it. We did broom ball, the broom hockey.
Yes.
Oh, they loved it. They went nuts. We're running around on the ice and we're playing hockey, and it was hilarious. It was so much fun. So, and most of them don't even know that was a thing, Well,
sure.
Because that was a youth group thing, years ago. But now it's not that. But we did broom ball. That was amazing. That was a lot of fun.
think I'm getting too old for that now. I don't know. I'm playing flag
Oh,
football. I'm not sure,
believe
man.
me,
This has been
I just
sore
kind
after
of
that.
roam around. I'm the referee. I just kind of stand there with a whistle.
Oh man, that brings lots of memories back when I was like
Oh, it does,
15,
doesn't it?
16.
Oh
Oh my
man, the
goodness.
head hitting the ice and blood. Oh yeah, it's
Yes.
just good. Good stuff. Good times.
That's great. And those are great ideas, man. Thank you. Because
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes just trying to
absolutely.
come up with different things, and I want to be, encourage our staff, and they feel valued and part of the team, and so
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
super important to me. And that's really good. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
What
So,
else you got?
yeah, another question I had was kind of a way different question in a sense, but in my context, we have multiple churches that we've rescued and we're working with
Mhm,
and
mhm.
helping them to grow, and then we have our main Victorville church, which has a strong English Hispanic services going on, and then we have our school. That's actually we're excited this year. We first time we've been over 300 students in the last 15 years, so pretty exciting for us, and
Hey, that's
God's doing a great
awesome.
work with that. And so I'm just wondering, like, I know you do a lot of different things and you have a lot of different hats. How have you, like personally as a leader, balanced those things out, or going, okay, I need to give this much time to this part or this day to this part? I just didn't know if you had like, hey, a certain day you do this, or I just want curious how you handle that, because sometimes I feel like I need to do a better job at what's important and what only I can do versus what maybe I want to do but I know I need to do. So that's the stuff I've been just working through and processing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's a great question because when you're multi-site and you got a school and then you're a pastor and you got to study and whatever else you got going on, I think that can get real insane. One thing that I've tried to do, and I'm not definitely not saying I'm perfect at it, but one thing I've tried to do is when I create a calendar like 2025, I'm starting to go into 2025 now. We're calendaring. We've had calendar meetings. I drop in the big rocks. I know I want to meet with this many. I know I want to meet with these people this many times. So that's first. I know I need to meet with this group this many times, rather than it's February and I'm like, well, I got to meet with them in March, but we don't have any time. My whole calendar's
Sure,
booked.
sure.
It's like the big rocks. That whole kind of concept. Put the big rocks in, then the gravel
Yeah,
goes around it.
sure.
That's the
Yeah, I'm
concept.
aware
Put
of
the
that.
big rocks in. Yeah, yeah. So that's one thing that I think is really important. Is okay. What are the big rocks? What are the things that in each of those categories that is like, man, I gotta meet with these people. I've got to have these kind of events, whether that's staff day or meeting with the teachers or meeting with the principal or whatever, superintendent, however, whatever the title is. Those meetings, I think, are important. That's one thing. Secondly is I try to, and this is a little bit more of the mission critical concept.
Hmm.
Mission critical being Josh should have 3 or 4 lanes. And that's all that Josh should have. Now, what's interesting is, for instance, I'm just going to give an example. Someone at a church might say, look, I'm both the youth pastor and I'm also do all the assimilation,
Hmm.
and so that means I oversee all, guest services or whatever. And so in his mind, his mission critical is youth pastor and then, first impressions and whatever.
Sure.
And I said, dude, you're focusing on the department. What you need to focus on is what is common in all of those departments that you need to be doing. Do you need to develop leaders in all of them? Yeah. Okay. Then that's a mission critical for you.
I see.
Do you need to raise up volunteers in all of them? Yes, I have to be constantly raising up volunteers. Okay, that's a mission critical. Because every time I do mission critical, the staff member comes back with, they list out their departments. I'm like, no, you're not getting it. What do you
Okay.
need to do that's common for all of them? So for me, I'm still very involved with South Hills. Even though I don't do the day-to-day, I do more global expansion. I work with Convoy. I work in the church boom world. So major thing is constantly networking.
Yes.
Constantly. Major thing is I'm always developing leaders, always looking at the next leader, finding the next leader, whatever. Major thing is I'm the chief fundraiser. So I'm constantly, so those things, the 3 things I gave you fit in almost every one of those. Like, yeah, there's part of my life, like there's 3 or 4 parts of my life and they all kind of like, they need that developing leaders and they need that networking. And I think that helps. So big rocks go first. And secondly is trying to figure out for you, what are those 3 or 4 things that only you can do? You are the chief fundraiser. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for you? And how do you need to operate? What do you need to be doing in that lane to make sure these 3 areas are taking off? I'm just calling it 3 areas, whatever your area, school, multi-site, church. What do you need to be doing in the chief fundraising world? Okay. You're the chief visionary. What do you need to be doing? You're the chief communicator. What do you need to be doing? So what do you need to be doing in those 3, fundraiser, visionary, and communicator? What do you need to be doing to make sure that all those departments you just listed are still happening?
That's good.
It's changing your mind, because everybody says, okay, I'm going to work on school today. Now I'm going to work on multi-site today. Now I'm going to work on church today. Okay, well, what if we said, what do all 3 of those need from you?
Yeah, that's good.
They need vision, they need communication, they need fundraising. And then all of a sudden you begin, now if you whiteboarded it and you did 3 lanes, you would say fundraising, communication, vision. Then you would start listing out the activity in those lanes. What are the activities that need to be happening in those lanes? And now you know exactly where you need to be spending 70, 80% of your time is in the activities of those lanes.
Because you've talked about in the past of finding what only you can do and do those things well. And I know sometimes, I'm sure, people will try to pull us to different directions. And so just being very specific and purposeful about, okay, I got to do these things, and that's what matters. So that's good. That's good.
Yep. I got to do these things. And remember mission critical, because we talked about it before, but just as a refresher, if Josh doesn't do blank, our future's threatened. What's the blank? That is such a dividing line question, isn't it?
Yes.
If Josh doesn't do blank, our future's threatened. We put a lot of stuff in that blank. It's like, our future ain't threatened over that.
Yeah.
Not at all. But if Josh doesn't raise funds, our future's threatened. Well, that's true. You see how all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's totally different. So to pass the mission critical test, you got to throw a word in that blank and then answer it honestly. Like, I don't think it's threatened. It's not threatened. I've noticed this real quick, Josh. I've noticed that the urgent is seldom important and the important is seldom urgent. And knowing those, like, we get all urgent, it's like, but it's not important. We just feel the urgency because there's a fire, but it's not important. Those lanes are the important things. Those are the things that if you don't do those things, we're not going to grow. We're in trouble. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying that. Yeah, it reminds me of that little pamphlet years ago, The Tyranny of the Urgent.
Yes,
from years ago. But
So
when you're defining that, what can Josh do? Do you use people around you, like your key people, to help you define that? In the sense of like, maybe an executive pastor or something like that. Hey, what do you think? Or a principal, superintendent, that kind of stuff. So you're using people to help hone those down with you and for you.
100% I do. And I have a couple coaches in my life. I've had them for over 10 years. And I feel like every couple of years, I have to get with my coaches and say, because they've been coaching me for over 10 years, but I'll get with them specifically on the subject of like, what do I need to be doing? Mm-hmm. How does it need to change? What is the thing that only I can do? And I find that it morphs a little bit. It changes a little bit. Sometimes the lanes might look the same, but some of the activity starts to change. Percentages start to change. And I need someone that is, not only do I need someone this way to help me, I need someone that is on third and I'm on second going, no, that's not right. That is so important for me to have that so I can constantly be going to that next level, because I'm asking them to solve a problem that an executive team, sometimes I'm asking them to solve a problem that they're just not, it's not where they're at. Versus I get on the phone with a couple of my coaches, have a Zoom call and go, okay, here's what I'm dealing with. And now it's like, whoa, or go see them in person, or we meet in person for a few hours. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's where I need to be. And it's usually a little different than what the executive team came up with because they're so, they're just so, that's just where they live. They're ahead of me. So that's an important part of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I appreciated that contact you gave us. I think David Goads, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he spoke at last week, I think, and man, he's been great to connect with. That guy's, I like him a lot. So thank
Oh
you for
yeah.
that.
No, he does his own thing, but he works with us. He's kind of works with
Yes.
us on kind of a contract basis, and
Yeah, I've
he's a
been able to
great
my
speaking
team
coach.
4 times now. It's been super. So anyway, I just wanted to give you kudos on that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, man, you got anything else you want to chat about today?
No, that's good, man. Thank you so much. That's helpful, and
Awesome.
appreciate you. Look forward to having you. You're coming in November to our church.
Yeah,
So excited
yeah.
about that. and
Doing another
look
Rescue
forward to
Sunday. Yeah.
connecting again.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Anything you need, just let me know.
Okay, God bless you, man.
All
Thanks.
right. Thanks, man. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Josh, talking about staff retreats and how to make them powerful and how to make them extremely effective. Don't forget to always check out churchboom.org and find everything that we have to offer there. We want to do all we can to help you grow as a leader. We'll see you next time.